Here we go. Good morning. I'm Tammy Manco from Indiana University of Pennsylvania, and I'm happy to welcome this morning for one of our PASHI Get Hired virtual recruitment sessions, a team from the Naval Audit Service led by Ava Stone Hopkins. So we're going to kick off the session with a series of questions and then give an opportunity for participants to ask questions at the end. And so our first question, or perhaps request, is that each of you from Naval Audit Service, please introduce yourselves and tell maybe a little bit about your experience with Naval Audit Service.
Okay, so this is Ava Stone Hopkins, and I will start because behind me you will have an opportunity to meet the auditors on our team, and also Jackie Lawrence, who's on my team on the workforce management side. But I'm the Director of Workforce Management for Naval Audit Service, and my role is to help the Naval Audit Service bring in potential auditors for the future to join our team. Jackie Lawrence and I, we work with the audit staff to connect them with students from universities throughout the U.S. That are interested in a career in auditing. Our role is to provide information about the job opportunities, including internships. Sometimes we have internships available, but mostly we are looking for full-time auditors to come and join our team. And we work through that with connecting you all with the right folks that can tell you a little bit about what the day in the life of an auditor is like, and to learn a little bit more about the profession and how you can join as a civilian employee and really make a difference in terms of the types of audits that the Naval Audit Service auditors do. What does that look like, and how you would be able to contribute to that. So what I'll do is I'll pass it on to Jackie. You can come right behind me and talk on the workforce management side. And then from there, Fez, Nate, Laura, jump in and chime in and tell them a little bit about yourselves and how long you've been with Naval Audit Service and so forth. And I have to say, I've been with Naval Audit Service, I forgot to say that, for about nearly 7 years now on the workforce management HR side of the house with regard to helping with the hiring process. Jackie.
Hi, Raymond. My name is Jackie Lawrence, and I've been with Naval Audit for a little over 3 years, working with Ava in the workforce management on the recruiting and staffing side. And I'm the one that would help you do your interview and help you come on board and everything, and then get you acclimated with the auditors and your audit team. And I'm going to pass it to Laura.
Hi, my name is Laura Crapshow. I have been with the Naval Audit Service since I graduated from IUP, so I'm an IUP alum. I have been with them over 20 years. I currently serve as the Executive Director to the Auditor General of the Navy. Basically, in that role, I help develop strategy for the organization and kind of manage day-to-day functions so that the Auditor General can focus on higher priority things. So I just kind of keep things moving. So I had already said I've been there for 20 years. I loved my time at IUP. I played softball while I was there, so I have a lot of familiarity with all of the PASHI schools. So glad to see someone else from Clarion joining this group chat. Fez, how about you?
How you doing? My name's Shalin Patel, or otherwise better known as Fez at the agency. So I've been with Naval Audit Service for 10 years, and my current role, I serve as an audit manager within our acquisition auditing realm. So been there for 10 years, went to school out at Washington and Jefferson College, which is also out in Western Pennsylvania. So love what I do, and I think I answered the question, so I'm going to pass it off to Nate.
I'm Nathan Brown. I went to Slippery Rock University. Been with the agency for about 13 years, straight out of college. I'm also an audit manager within our classified division, the Special Projects Audit Division, and I just oversee audits on a day-to-day process, oversee team members and executing those audits.
Thanks to each of you. It's great to meet you today, and we appreciate that you are with us to share information about the opportunities with your organization. So the next question is, what do you find employees and interns like best about your organization?
So I'm going to start with this one, and then Fez, Nathan, jump in whenever. I think one of the best opportunities, or the best thing about working for the Naval Audit Service, is that we really do support and promote work-life balance. So as a federal organization, you're probably working your 40 hours a week. There are times where there's going to be requirements to work a little bit longer, but it's not like the general public accounting firms where you're billing more than 40 hours a week. So you're able to have a life kind of outside of the office. But while you're in the office, there's also flexibilities with regard to the hours that you can work. Like specifically right now, we are on a MaxiFlex schedule that is basically saying you could work anytime you want with supervisory approval, but anytime you want, Monday through Saturday. And so there's really flexible hours to help balance your work and your life. And then another thing that we have is a fitness program. So you're afforded 3 hours a week to, go work out and keep up with your physical fitness. So the work-life balance initiatives at the agency are really good. And I think that that's what most people would say. And then probably travel. The Navy, the Department of the Navy, generally the Navy is in pretty good places. Ships need water. So we're talking San Diego, Guam, Nate and Fez can tell you about some of their audit trips, but the travel can really be exciting. Hawaii, I've been to Hawaii a couple times too. So, work-life balance initiatives as well as the travel. Do you guys have anything to add?
I don't have too much more on that besides the travel. I mean, when I first started, I for the first 4 or 5 years, I was to Hawaii and Guam. I swear it was like every 6 months. We're constantly busy there, but also made sure I had a lot of time to, visit different places while there, some personal time when I had that time off. But yeah, definitely travel is one of the top things, in addition to the work life. Now I have 2 little kids, another one on the way. So it definitely plays a big role into, me being happy working with the agency, as well as a lot of other people within the agency.
I think the last thing I'll add is just the team structure that we have. Because we travel so much, your team becomes almost like your second family as much as you're working with them. You're most likely traveling overseas, so you have to be comfortable with the people you're traveling with, and they become really close. You start understanding their personal lives and what's going on, and you build a true friendship with the people you work with on a daily basis, because you're getting nitty gritty with looking at policies and procedures that the government's executing and working towards a better solution. So I think there's a good sense of camaraderie amongst the team members that you're working with, as well as the administrative staff that help us out on a daily basis.
So work-life balance, camaraderie, travel to nice places, sounds pretty good, doesn't it? What makes your organization, in your opinion, unique from other companies, or either of its kind or different from it?
I can start with this one, Fez. Some of the stuff I think is the different types of audits that we get to do. My wife actually works for an agency, and some of the stuff that she has done is kind of blown my mind, where just recently she got to fly out to an aircraft carrier that was out to sea. The plane landed on, had the trip line. She stayed the night on there while she's doing audit work. So you get to see a lot of different things on how the Navy's actually working while it's out in the field or out in the ocean, for that matter. But just the type of works that we get to do, traveling. But it's, I think the type of work that we get to do, we do a lot of work with NCIS. That's the Naval Criminal Investigative Service that, a lot of people don't realize that we get to go hand in hand with them, but it's definitely one of the key things that I like doing. It keeps stuff interesting. Can't get into a lot of details of what I do in terms of that, but within the NCIS, it's definitely what the work we do with them is definitely interesting.
I think just to tack onto that, what makes us unique is that a lot of the stuff you read in the newspapers about the Department of Defense or the Department of the Navy in specific, such as F-35s or the carriers or new ships being built, that's something that we have the potential to look at as an auditor. And so you look at the cost that we're spending on it, there may be a time that comes up that your name's called to, hey, go look at this $60 billion project that we're running and ensure that it's running efficiently and effectively for taxpayers, including yourself. Eventually, when you start paying taxes, that's something to be concerned about. And then the last thing, just clarify on Nate's point, when we work with NCIS, it's nothing like the TV show where like people are going in handcuffs and doing all that kind of stuff. Most of our job as auditors is looking at the paperwork and connecting the dots for the agents to further go and take criminal action against them. I've done almost 3.5 years, the last 3.5 years that I've been here, I've done strictly NCIS assist, helping them out, and seeing that turn into criminal prosecutions and seeing people behind bars, I think is something that's unique that you get to see from start to finish.
Yeah, I'll kind of pick up a little bit more on that one, Fez. Sorry about that, Laura, if you were going to jump in. But some of the stuff that we like kind of have our hands on, not only just looking and trying to save, the Department of the Navy or the Department of Defense money, we also look at stuff that actually save people's lives. Kind of giving you an example, I was part of an oversight committee regarding a classified program. Can't get, again, too much details of that, but looking at this program, the guy's briefing about the everything about the program. And when he was done, there was a person in the back who's like, "You forgot the most important thing." And he's like, "What?" He's like, "You're alive in here today because this program was set up and it saved his entire life." And, it kind of really brings home everything that we do and that we're looking into. It's like, wow, okay, now that you're kind of seeing the big picture of what we're looking at and how it benefits not just the military, but also civilian lives.
And then, Nate and Fez have kind of talked about this as they've talked about the variety of projects that they worked on. But one of the unique things I think, is that you're not going to be working on the same thing project after project after project. There's a lot of variety. You could be working, the next audit you work on might have to do with environmental hazards. And then the next audit would be, making sure that people who are getting on base are actually authorized to get on base. So from a security standpoint. So if there's any topic out there in the Department of the Navy that is such a high priority or something, we have the authority to go and look at any of that. And it does run the spectrum of security, environment, financial, contracting. So there's a lot of varieties.
It really does sound like an exciting opportunity. I was having a little trouble with my mute there. Sorry for my delay. So what is something that most people don't know or perhaps would be surprised to learn about Naval Audit Service?
So I think we kind of touched a lot of it. We combined 3 and 4 a little bit. The last question and this question, a lot of that stuff is what makes us unique that people probably don't know about us. But I think the one thing that I wanted to tie in that Laura was just talking about is the variety of audit topics. At our agency, and I'm not sure if you get this at a private company, we actually have the ability to sometimes suggest what we should go audit. Every year we look at audit planning, and our senior leaders go and have meetings with senior members at the Pentagon for the Department of Defense, and we can actually propose topics that we want to look at. So if you're reading something in the newspaper, we can say, hey, look, I think we should look at this program because it could benefit for X, Y, and Z. So that's unique to us. I think that's a fun part of our job every year when that comes around, where we're all looking at newspaper articles or we're looking at previous audits that we've done and finding little other avenues that we can take a look at to help save the taxpayers money.
Anybody else have a comment there or an answer?
The only thing I want to stress a little bit more, and Ava pointed this out in the beginning, is that we are civilian employees. So we are not part of the military. We are not, we don't join the Navy. We are part of the Navy's organization, but we do that as civilian employees.
Okay, great, thank you. What is something that you look for on a candidate's resume and or in their cover letter?
So this is Ava. So one of the things that we look for on your resumes is we look for any experience that you've gained through work studies or internships that you've had over the summer, Raymond. So say, for example, maybe you've had a co-op opportunity, or if you had an opportunity, you've met an employer and you've been able to do an internship over the summer or even throughout your work. Some students, while they're in school, we know that they have the opportunity to work part-time. all work experience is important. If your work experience has anything to do with where you have an opportunity to do anything that requires you to, show your writing skills, your presentation skills, your thinking skills, your analytical skills. All of those are key skills that you would learn when you become an auditor. We know that there are some things that, you won't have necessarily coming right out of college. But I would say that even now, just sort of thinking in advance to where you want to lead your career, when you look for job opportunities, look for jobs that will give you some opportunity to sort of delve into areas of audit. And I think that even with me saying this, there's going to be an opportunity for Laura, Nate, and Faz to kind of share with you the difference between accounting and auditing, because the two are not the same. But there are aspects of your internships that you will be able to, we call it like transferable skills. You'll be able to translate the work that you did within a company that then ties into what you see in our job announcements. Make sure that your resumes include, clearly show the time frame that you've worked with different employers, or even volunteer work, because what happens is they look at the block of experience that you have and they try to add that up to 1 year of specialized experience. So when you look at a vacancy announcement, it's going to tell you all the roles and responsibilities, not all the roles and responsibilities, but a highlight or a summary of the roles and responsibilities that you would potentially perform as an auditor coming in and starting your career. And so you'll look at how you're going to tie in those transferable skills and convey that, and they're going to look for a year's worth. So everything counts, whether it's 2 months, 3 months, try to have everything chronological so that they can add those dates and months up and get to the year. And again, don't discount your volunteer experience, any leadership roles that you've had while you were attending college. If there were organizations or societies that you were not only a part of, but you were actively participating in a leadership role, convey that information as well. Jackie, you can chime in at any point if you like, and the same for Fez and Nate. They've been out to career fairs. Laura, chime in as well, and they can share with you that oftentimes, when they're speaking to some of the students, you guys share a lot about your experiences, but now I guess the challenge is how to get all of that on paper. And of course, you have your professional and career development centers on campuses to help you to do that as well. So definitely tap into that resource to help with your resume.
I so appreciate all of that. That's such good insight for anybody who's listening. So thank you, Ava. Do you have any tips on what students should do and maybe not do during a job interview or an internship interview for that matter?
So I'm going to briefly speak on this one, but I think that it really will come from also those who have actually interviewed. But we sit in on the interviews as well. And of course, I have to interview because I'm a supervisor, I'm a manager, and I hire people. I will say that it's important that when you're in the interview, take your time to answer your questions. Just relax. And if you need to circle back and make sure you understand a question, it's okay to ask to make sure that you have everything you need to be able to answer. Come to the interviews and dress professionally. I know it sounds minor, but it really is important. Dress for success, dress for the job that you're looking for. Make sure you greet everyone when you come into that interview, and give each interviewer your time. One person may ask the question, but address everyone in the room, not just the person that's asking you a particular question, for example. And it's okay to circle back at the end of the interview and come back to something that you may have missed, but certainly make the eye contact. Don't forget the folks in the room. Make sure you say thank you when the interview is over, as well as introduce yourself well when you start the interview. and focus on the job. Focus on the job. You know, all the other bells and whistles can come later, but show that you are interested in the job itself. And anyone else you can certainly add into that as well. And ask questions. That's the other thing too. Don't leave the interview without asking questions, because when you're not asking questions, the interviewers on their end, they may think that maybe you're not interested or it's not a good fit. So make sure that they know that, yeah, you really truly are interested in this job, so that when you have a lot of people you're looking at, you get a sense of the folks that you definitely want to circle back to. I hope that answers your question.
It does. Does anybody have anything they want to add?
I was going to just add that don't be afraid to ask for them to repeat the question. You know, make sure that you understand all aspects, because sometimes the questions have two or three parts. And if you don't understand it, or if you miss one part, it could be a factor. So always, you know, don't be afraid to ask them to repeat it and, you know, comprehend exactly what the question is saying, because I think that that's one of the biggest problems that the candidates have, is that they don't fully understand the question, so therefore they are not able to elaborate fully. That's probably one of the biggest things that I would say.
And I think I'll just tack on to what Jackie said about listening to the question. I think the biggest thing too is if we ask for examples or something and you don't have an example to provide, make it into a hypothetical. Say, hey, if I were in this situation, I would do X, Y, and Z, showing that you'll be able to think about future events that come up versus trying to make something up of what you quote unquote did or didn't do isn't going to fly, because most of the time the interviewer will know that you're just making the story up. It either sounds way too out of this world or it doesn't sound right. So just come up with a hypothetical. So for example, if somebody asked, hey, if you had a job opportunity and somebody asked you to do something that wasn't ethical, what did you do? If you didn't do it, say what you would do and say that I would talk to the appropriate personnel or something like that. Just come up with a hypothetical.
One thing I would add, it's kind of picking up with that, what Ava mentioned about relaxing. I know it's normal going into an interview or any meeting for that, is being nervous a little bit. One thing I've always done, it helps, is in the beginning, do a little small talk, you know, just start talking to people. It doesn't have to be any interview related, just talk to them like a normal person. And then it helps relieve a lot of that stress, a lot of that nerves. And so when you get to actually the questions of an interview, it's easier. Then you can just start, you know, answering them. You don't have to worry about all that stress anymore.
This is just such great advice for our students and graduates to hear, because as much as we try to present this information, there are things that we don't have the insight that you all have, because we're not doing what you do every day. So thank you. Do you have perhaps some opportunities that are available that you'd like to talk about for alumni, soon-to-be alumni or graduates, and maybe current students with your organization? I know you kind of referenced that early on, but are there particular postings or positions that are available right now, or that you anticipate will be available?
So currently we have direct hire authority, and what that means is that we have the ability to hire interested candidates without a formal job announcement. So a great resource is USA Jobs. So I don't know, Raymond, if you've been on the OPM USA Jobs website. If you haven't, it's usajobs.gov, that's G-O-V. And so a lot of the opportunities are posted. We had an announcement out there. It has closed. However, that does not stop us from being able to hire students. And so we also have access to the different platforms, Simplicity and the other. Do you guys use Simplicity or?
Handshake? We used to use Simplicity. We use Handshake now. Are you familiar with that as well?
Yes, we use Handshake more so than we use Simplicity. I just know a few schools are moving to Simplicity, but Handshake is a good one, and we have information on Handshake about Naval Audit Service, and on Handshake we also have a link to our SecNav website, and it has the email address to send your resume into the Nav Audit Service recruiter email box. Opportunities, we're always looking for potential folks to hire. We have currently maybe probably about 5 or 6 openings right now for career ladder or career entry positions, as I should say. All of our positions, I say, even though they are entry level, we tell people to look beyond that. And so Laura, Fez, and Nate can share with you the growth opportunities. They all started out in career ladder positions, and they are now at much higher grade levels where they are managers and executive directors. So yes, you're going to come in entry level, you're going to learn about the job, you're going to get your feet wet. But as long as you are interested and you put 110%, the opportunities will be there for you to go as far as a senior executive, as a matter of fact. So we can certainly send more information to the career centers to explain how the pay scales work and how it's the difference between a GS employee and a senior executive. Probably too much for this call right now, but it's just important to share that the opportunities that you have, promotion opportunities throughout your career with the Naval Audit Service.
That would be great information for us to have. I know that some years ago we attended and more than one time we've attended sessions where we learn about state and federal job opportunities, and so kind of that pay scale that you mentioned. But that would be helpful. So thank you for that offer. And so our final question, at least in our series of questions, is what one piece of information or advice or both would you like to share with anybody who's listening?
Okay, I'll start. The Naval Audit Service, this is a little bit of background here. The Naval Audit Service has 3 locations. We're primarily headquartered in the Washington, D.C. area, but we have offices in Norfolk, Virginia, and San Diego, California. But speaking from the D.C. area, there's a lot to do in D.C. So when we talk about work-life balance initiatives and you have your free time, just kind of think about what you want to do with that free time too. And in DC, there's museums, there's history, there's culture, there's sporting, there is, everyone's talking about Hamilton, the Kennedy Center is here if you want to go to theater. So there's a lot to do in the area. So in addition to being a great organization to work for, obviously, I've been there for my entire career, over 20 years. So I think I could say that I like the organization. It's a good place to work just based on that. But living in the DC area also provides a lot of opportunities as well. So it's something to think about.
I'd also like to share that there's a lot of incentives that come with being a federal employee and a civilian with the Naval Audit Service. You have your health care, you have insurance for health care, medical, dental, you have a retirement plan, you have, we have something called the Thrift Savings Plan where you can save for retirement. It's kind of what people think of as a 401k. DC, for example, if you come to DC, the cost of living is high, the commuting can be a challenge. And so there's, you get support in terms of funding to help pay for transportation. We call it like a mass transit benefit, where the Navy actually gives a small amount of money towards taking the commuter train or taking a commuter bus. And so those things are helpful. If you work on the Navy Yard, for example, you don't have to pay for parking. So that some places you work, parking is expensive. So there's incentives like that. They seem small, but they really make a difference when you're coming to an area and you're trying to get acclimated and get situated and figure out, where you're going to live. So like in the DC area, you have we have a lot of areas around the Washington, DC area. So you have lots of options on where you choose to settle down. I know sometimes the cost of living can be a little scary for some folks when they think about coming to a big city. And so there are ways to sort of work around that as far as getting the transportation benefit and finding and having options for where you actually settle. We have again the field offices. So there's an opportunity earlier. Everyone mentioned about the opportunity to travel. I would say that because we have field offices, you have an opportunity to actually potentially someday work and live in a different location, not necessarily just the DC area, but if opportunities open up at the field offices, you could move to San Diego or move to Norfolk. So those opportunities may not come up often, but it's still something that's there. And we've had auditors ask to transfer to our field offices and settle down, and they've enjoyed it, and they're still a part of the Naval Audit Service team.
I think the one thing that I would say, it's more, I guess, advice as you guys are looking for job opportunities as you graduate, is don't be blinded by the money up front. All of our salaries for federal employees are publicly available, so you can go to OPM's website and see how much all of us make in the GS scales. These private companies will wine and dine you with high cost of salary. They'll give you all the benefits you want, but look at the work-life balance. Actually talk to somebody who works there and understand what they do. Most of us on this call, we put in 40 hours a week, and in rare cases, we work a little bit extra. But we put in 40 hours a week and we go spend time with our family and we enjoy our lives. You have plenty of opportunity now to quote unquote come in at a lower salary and get the experience and understand everything, and then make more money as you progress in your career. Don't look for the big paycheck up front, because most of the time it won't pay you dividends in the long run. So don't let, like I said, the biggest piece of advice, which I wish I had when I was 21 years old, don't look at the paycheck that you're about to get. Look at the experiences that can get you to the big paycheck in the future.
Any closing thoughts from Jackie, Nate, or Laura?
Just a little bit more on kind of some of the benefits, some of the stuff in addition to like the TSP, the thrift savings plan. We also have like the flex spending, which you're allowed a certain amount of dollars for childcare, certain amount for medical expenses that are tax free. There's also childcare assistance that you can apply to, that if you have your kids in daycare or before after school programs, that you can get a certain amount of money for assistance to pay for those certain things. So some of those, they're definitely perks to working with the federal government as well.
Right. Yeah, to piggyback off of that, we have the CAP, the Civilian Employee Assistance Program, which helps you with legal advice, wills. I've actually tapped into them a few times over the past couple of months, and they provide a lot of free counseling and therapy and things like that. And it's just a really good resource that everyone is eligible for. And you know, that's another benefit that a lot of employees and a lot of employers don't provide.
And I got one last thing. Sorry, this is kind of a humorous point. If you're applying for any federal job and it requires a clearance, starting now while you're in college, start maintaining a track record of where you've lived. It's a huge thing, and it's really funny, but when you go to apply for a clearance with the federal government, you need to know every address that you've lived at, including your parents' address, your college address, and they do look at all that stuff. So keep a track of where you lived and where you visited, because if you do apply for a federal job, it's going to come up. So that's just a thought, because I struggled really hard when I first applied to figure out everywhere I lived in college, on campus, off campus. So just a good note to keep.
And I want to piggyback off of that. Thank you for bringing that up, Fez, because that is so important. That's probably one of the toughest parts of the hiring process is you put in your resume, you get the interview, and then you get the call of, yay, I've got this tentative offer, and then the paperwork starts coming. And that security clearance piece is huge, and sometimes it is the longest part of the process, because you are gathering all of that information, where you've lived, who you've worked for. You've got to give specific dates and times, and your relatives. I mean, yes, thank you. Good. So if you have that information and sort of keep that little file with you, even throughout your career, it's very, very helpful. And because once the security clearance is taken care of, everything else just moves smoothly. You come in, you have to do fingerprints and all of that, and then they give you the green light, and then you get the final offer and you come on board. So yeah, thank you. Very good. Yeah.
Okay, those are great pieces of information and insight, and you're right, not everybody would think of those things. especially when there is a lot of competition out there, right? And we do try to tell our students and graduates, excuse me, to consider jobs with the state and federal organizations, because they're, excuse me, good thing I'm not talking more, that there are just a lot of nice career path opportunities there. So thank you so much for spending time with us today. We'll see if there are any questions from others who are joining us. Does anybody have any questions to ask?
Yes, I have a questions. What kind of security levels for the auditor in your agency?
So Raymond, I think that you're referring to the levels of security clearance.
Yes, because I passed the DoD security level, so I'm not sure I qualify for your agency.
Okay, so for the majority of our jobs with the Naval Audit Service, you have to be able to obtain a secret clearance and maintain it. Some of our jobs actually require a top secret clearance because of the type of audits that they do. And so when we go through that process, it really just depends on which job you're applying for. The jobs we're currently hiring for right now, well, there's actually two sides. We are looking for people that have a TSSCI background. So if you happen to have, I think I understood you, that you have a clearance already that you've been cleared through DoD. If that is a top secret clearance, Nathan and I would be very interested in Fez in talking to you. We like your resume like yesterday. But the bulk of our jobs are secret. But I tell you, if you have a TS, that puts you in a whole new category in terms of opportunities, because there are just not a lot of people out there that have a top secret clearance that also have a background that would fit the auditing profession. Yes. So.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you everybody for joining us today. It's been our pleasure to host all of you from Naval Audit Service. We appreciate your insight and expertise and great advice. So let us know how we can support you best as you continue to promote your brand, but also recruit and hire for jobs and internships.